Alright, so this video is going to talk about how we can take a part that's oriented like this, bring it into an assembly, and then actually change the default orientation and position that is going to come in when we create a new assembly, starting off with this part file. So um, we might have created our part using this orientation. This is our isometric view again, where our front is this way and our right is from the right. But let's say for whatever reason, have an assembly. This part, the valve body is over here, and it looks like what was the front plane will now kind of be our top plane when we look at the view in this isometric view, okay? So how do we actually bring in this part and then create an assembly from it, start off with that, but actually get it so that the isometric view and the assembly is as you saw in that second picture. So first I'm going to create a new assembly. And then if I just double click on the valve body and bring it in, right now it's just going to place it in some position. If I select the part, you'll get this notification. It says the selected component is fixed, it cannot be moved. But as I was saying, for the overall assembly, we have a front, top, and right. Now, if I do click isometric right now, since this is the only part in this view, it's going to use this position. But we want to actually use the front, top, and right to create that isometric view for the entire assembly. If we open up the part, we can hover over the front, the top, and the right, and we can see that they're kind of different. But the point is, if I go and now look for this front plane, it's somewhere over here. So the point is, we're just, SOLIDWORKS is just fixing this part in some position in space. So when we go and actually look at creating part drawings for, we would want this part to be run like this. So anyway, long story short, how do I actually get out of this? How do I unfix? Well, it's actually called float. So if I right click on the part in the feature manager, I get this float. I can also select a surface in the graphics area, and then I get this float. If I click float, now I can actually move this up and down. I can rotate it, things like that, right? All right, so now it'd be useful to actually, make a relationship between our overall assembly, front, top, and right, to this part. So we can actually dictate where we want this part to be in the assembly space. So let's take a look at the front plane. That, to me, kind of looks like my right plane for my part. If I make those coincident, and I hit F key to bring things to fit the screen. Now if I hit isometric, yeah, I'm kind of getting about the view that I want. However, I can still move it. So if I look at some other planes from my part, and then I hover over, I'm going to have to zoom out, it looks like. The front plane for the overall doesn't really seem to make sense. If I look at the right plane, it's way over there, but if I kind of look at these two things, if I look at the top plane and the right plane, they seem to be oriented. So I'm going to control select, and let's just try and see if mating these two. Now, if that mating those two actually brings in the orientation that I want. And so far it seems pretty good. But we have still one last plane to relate the overall assembly front, top, and right. So I was not able to move up, and I can move it up and down. So what do I have left? I did the top. Did I do the top plane? No. So now I want to look and see what's the kind of corresponding plane for my part. Control select that, and then mate. and it's going to assume coincident, and sure enough, that's what I want. Now, if I bring it in, it looks like everything's right. Now, I can't move it. So once I have front and top and right, and we could rename these, but the front, top, and right, they may not be the same as far as what our part is, but we really didn't want to change our parts, front, top, and right planes. We want to keep those as is. Um, so we can just relate them to the overall assembly. Now, whenever we zoom off in space and lose our part, um, the actual front, top, and right for the assembly can also be used to do assembly operations as well as the front, top, and right for this. So, last thing, in assemblies, we were using millimeters unit system, metric to unit system for this, so I changed that, and then I hit save, and uh, orientation change assembly. So change the orientation of this part, and then last thing, before I do the final save, I'm going to go ahead and fix this part. I've actually already have fixed it, so I can't move it in space, but it's nice just to say that's the part I want fixed for subsequent operations. So now when I insert a new component, I can actually bring it in and do all these operations. But again, every single component, if I go back to my picture, now the valve body is oriented in a way like this. So this part here is oriented the same way that I have my part there. And now I can add all these components and assemble the rest. And then when I go to isometric view, it always has orientation. All right, that's all.